everyone. So I have our special guest speaker today, and he is going to introduce himself, and he is going to start by telling us a little bit about himself and what his level of credibility is when it comes to speaking on our schools. So go ahead.
Well, first of all, it's my pleasure to be here this morning. I just wished it was under better circumstances. My background, I guess I want to preface all of this is I'm not a political animal. I'm a registered independent. I vote both sides of the aisle. I've never been involved in a campaign in my life until now. And it's simply because I have a certain sense of urgency regarding what's going on in our school district. So I felt obligated to step up and get involved in this campaign. My background, my name is James Bell. I've lived in the community for 49 years. My first job interview coming out of college, I got hired at Valencia High School in 1976. I taught social science at Valencia High School for 22 years. And then after 22 years, I had the opportunity to move into administration. I was the assistant principal for 8 years, and I was the principal for 8 years. So I spent my entire career of 38 years at Valencia High School. While I was assistant principal, I was the architect of the highly regarded IB program, which is now the top international baccalaureate program in Orange County, and also Val Tech, which is one of the top tech programs in Orange County also. During my tenure at Valencia High School, we grew the campus largely because of our two magnet programs. Almost 1,000 students. We went from about 1,800 to 1,900 to about 2,850 when we maxed out. During that same period, we went from where we're administering about 350 AP exams with a pass rate of about 73 to 75% to the point where, upon my retirement, we were administering about 2,000 IB and AP exams with a pass rate of slightly over 90%. I was the principal there during 7 of the 8 years during our Great Recession. Each year I had my budget cut, but we continued to grow. That's when we modernized our campus to the campus that you see today. So hopefully that gives you a little credibility. During this entire time, I've also lived in the school district. I still have a lot of friends, administrators and teachers. In fact, most of my friends are administrators and teachers, past and present, in our school district. So hopefully that provides me some credibility for this interview today.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions for today.
Sure.
So question one, how do you feel about the people running our school district now?
Well, I feel the three extremist members on our Board of Education, coupled with our superintendent and our deputy superintendent, in 18 months are slowly dismantling our school district, which most would consider it to be one of the better school districts in Orange County, and for a long time have been considered to be a destination school district for both families and for employees also.
Yeah. So in your opinion, why have we seen so many people leaving our district?
Well, first of all, I need to say during the last 18 months, we have lost 25 managers. We have lost all 4 of our assistant superintendents. We have lost 10 principals. We have lost 6 assistant principals, and we've lost several of our district directors and coordinators. And that alarms me, because that's a whole generation of leadership. Those were the people that have been trained in their entire life to provide us quality education in this community for the next decade, and they're no longer here. That in itself should be alarming to anyone.
Yeah. So what do you believe is causing those people to leave?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. I'm humored. I don't even know if that's the right word to say I'm humored. I guess I'm alarmed is a better word. They're leaving for a variety of reasons, but many of them have had their contracts terminated, and contracts are typically up on June 30th. That's the end of the school year. Many of them have been reassigned or demoted, and some of them have just come to the realization that what this board, the extremist members of our board, the board majority, and the superintendent and the deputy superintendent are not kid friendly, and they're not teacher friendly. And this is no longer the place that it used to be not too long ago. And so they're moving on.
Okay. So based on your professional experience and knowledge when it comes to our schools, in what ways does our board majority seem to be misleading our community when it comes to what they're up to?
Well,
what they're doing?
I'll give you some perfect examples. This exodus, I don't know if I want to call it exodus or if I want to call it a purge, but losing 25 managers. And we have one of our board members comes out in public and say, it's no big deal because this happens all the time. Rest assured, I've been involved in the school district for 49 years. This is unprecedented. Never, ever have we lost 25 managers in a single year. More so, we typically lose 2, maybe 3 managers. And when we do lose managers, it's because they choose to retire. Managers come here because this is a good place to work and a good place to retire. So when we did lose a manager, is they were retired, or was advancement else outside of our school district. For an example, a director becoming an assistant superintendent, or an assistant superintendent becoming a superintendent. So this idea that, oh, don't worry about it, it's just a bunch of drama, couldn't be further from the truth. Another thing is the same board member mentioned in a board meeting, it's no big deal to lose 10 principals. After all, quote unquote, Long Beach Unified lost 10 principals this last year. But this person didn't bother to tell the audience that Long Beach is the 4th largest school district in the state of California, and Placentia-Yorba is the 6th largest school district in Orange County. So we're comparing apples and oranges. If we lost 10 principals, what would be normal is for Long Beach to lose 40 principals. And may I also add too, that it's been a long time since Long Beach Unified has been a destination school district like PYL. I could go on for an hour on this, but just recently, and we'll talk about it a little later, is this USI, this Universal Sports Institute. One of our board members went online and put a spreadsheet trying to indicate that it's actually generating money for the school district. But that spreadsheet for, the novice, it might look good. But for a person who really knows school finances, there were so many omitted items, from capital expenditures to ongoing costs in future years, to maintenance and operations of that facility. And if you stay on top of social media, just recently there was a real good, someone did a real good job of indicating where we're actually going to lose money, and big money, on USI. So, it's just constant. I'm going to go ahead and say a campaign of misinformation, but I think I'm being very kind when I use the term misinformation. I could use many other terms that are probably more accurate to what the board and the superintendent are doing to the constituents of PYL right now.
Thank you. So what are your thoughts on some of these new people we've been seeing hired to replace the people who have left our district? Well,
like I said, we've lost an entire generation. I mean, we've lost people who have spent their entire career. A perfect example is Rick Lopez. He was one of our assistant superintendents of HR. He spent an entire career in this school district, and he wanted to retire in this school district. But we're losing these people for a variety of reasons. And I should add, when we talk about this misinformation, this same person on the board comes out and says, oh, all of these people are leaving the school district by choice. Well, first of all, if 25 managers leave the school district in an 18-month period, why are they leaving? Are they leaving because they're happy? But more commonly, they're leaving because they lost their job or they were demoted. Now, you're telling me if they leave our school district because they lost their job or they were demoted, is that leaving the school district by choice? But anyway, we have to replace these people, and we have. Many of them have just been promoted from inside the school district. Now, I'm not saying these people are bad people, because I know many of them, they're good people. And by the way, they were hired prior to this present Board of Education and prior to this superintendent. And I think they have huge potential. But the one thing they all have in common, almost all of them are inexperienced, and very few of them are ready to step into higher positions. I also find it very interesting is that they don't even bother to advertise these jobs outside our school district in most cases. We advertise on what we call EdJoin for the state of California. So educators throughout California, they can easily see what openings, like the openings we had in PYL. But they haven't advertised, and I'm going to speculate why. Is right now, PYL is no longer considered to be a destination school district. Successful managers do not want to come to a school district that has a toxic environment. And even if they advertise, they wouldn't be getting applicants. So what do? They appoint with inside the school district. I do not want to go ahead and vilify certain individuals, but for an example, if I were a parent at Esperanza, I would be so upset. They went several months with not one manager on campus. Then they hire a new principal, and the principal was an assistant principal from another school district. Never in our school district did we hire assistant principals from other districts to become principal in our district. They were either promoted, like myself, who served 8 years as assistant principal, and I proved my worth while I was assistant principal for 8 years, or we hired principals, highly successful, experienced principals from other districts who wanted to come to PYL. So basically, yes, we've lost this generation of leaders, and we haven't replaced them with the equivalent. We've replaced them with a lot of untested people, and I'm worried about how it's going to play out in the next several years.
So how does our current board and superintendent seem to be affecting a lot of the people working for our schools? And what do you believe is the cause of all these changes?
Well, one of the things during my 38 years, and I was so proud to be a teacher and administrator in PYL. I was very proud. I was very fortunate to be in this school district. And basically the culture in our school district, I'll use terms like cooperation and compromise and consensus and collegiality. And that was the culture of our school district. But it's no longer the culture of our school district. Talk to the teachers. Don't talk to the administrators. The administrators are scared to death. Talk to the teachers, and that's no longer the case. Now our culture in PYL is one of fear and retribution. I'll give you a perfect example, and she gave me permission to use this. A longtime teacher in our district, Sue Sawyer, who I hired at Valencia into our Val Tech program, later on matriculated to be Department of Business and Tech Department Chair at Esperanza, very outspoken about the conditions in our school district. And she spoke at many board meetings. And over the summer, she got transferred. Okay? Not by her okay. She got a forced transfer. That's a punishment. And that was an example used to all the other teachers. If you speak up against the superintendent or what the board is doing, there will be punishment. The managers, I've talked to many, many managers, and basically just say, you keep your mouth shut and you keep your head down. That is the culture in our school district. And I think we would all agree, I don't care what the organization is, when you have a culture like that, you're not going to maximize performance.
Thank you. So how do you feel about the way our district currently has been spending money?
Oh, wow, we would need longer than 30 minutes to address that. But there are just so many examples of fiscal malfeasance right now in our school district. I think we're all aware as residents of California, we have a $45 billion deficit in the state of California, and it's likely to go ahead and grow. The reason I mention that is there's no new money that is coming to education. In fact, funding for education's tied to Prop 98, and receipts in Sacramento, if they decline, will even be receiving less money to educate our children. So these are times of fiscal insecurity, fiscal uncertainty. Yet, with the new superintendent come in, supported by the board, we have all of these vanity projects. Okay, we can talk about, and I'll talk about each one of them, but probably the number one is this Universal Sports Institute. Okay, it's going to cost us millions of dollars. And I don't care how they spend the financing, we're losing more money than we're gaining on it. And basically, who's it servicing? It's servicing those students that are involved at our Parkview homeschool, maybe 200 kids. Now, my attitude and my philosophy about school expenditures, and by the way, I'm a fiscal conservative, is if you're going to spend money, especially a large sum of money, you want to maximize the number of kids that you're touching with that money. When you go ahead and have something the USI and you're only impacting like 200 kids and spending millions of dollars, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. In fact, it sounds a little elitist that a certain small portion of our children are receiving this special funding. Another one is this Orange County Computer Science School. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a very, very strong proponent of STEM education. Just take a look at what we did in 16 years at Valencia High School while I was there with our Val Tech program. I mean, it was unprecedented in our school district. And other than Troy Tech, it was unprecedented in Orange County. So I'm a proponent of STEM education. But this idea of creating a special school, a charter school within our district, that's unprecedented. We didn't need to create a charter school. Okay, we could have created a magnet school that would have been a lot less expensive and achieved the same goals, just like we did at Valencia High School with Val Tech. And I want you to understand too, no one's crazy about paying taxes. We know it's a necessary evil. But when I pay my taxes, I want to make sure the taxes are spent well. And if you know anything about charter schools, our charter schools, there's less transparent, they have special rules to conduct themselves by, and there's less transparency and less accountability. I don't know about you, but when I spend my tax dollar, I want to maximize transparency and I want to maximize accountability. Even more so, you talk about just totally ludicrous ideas. Now we have one board member that wants to establish an equestrian program in our school district. First of all, my first idea, have you thought about liability? But also, realistically, what do we have? 23,000 students in our school district. How many have access to horses? So if we think that USI was elitist, an equestrian program is beyond elitist. And so the question arises is, okay, we're not getting new money from the state of California to fund these vanity programs or vanity projects. So how are we paying for them? Well, you've heard the old analogy, there's a pie, and you can cut that pie all you want. And we have a budget in our school district, and programs are budgeted. So if we switch money to fund these programs, the money has to come from other programs. And you could ask the school district, there's very little transparency. They'll avoid that question or answering that question like a plague. But I do know this, 87% of every dollar that's spent in education, nationwide, statewide, and locally, is for personnel. And that's understandable. We're a service industry. So if you're going to go ahead and create money or switch money, one of the places it's likely to go ahead is to come from staffing at each of the school. I was at a parent meeting just the other night, and a very irate parent asked me, Mr. Bell, my daughter is a senior at Yorba High School, and she's trying to get into a high-level UC school like Berkeley or UCLA. And she's worked her entire life for this. And she was planning to have 4 AP classes in her senior year. And when she registered, she was informed you can have 2, and the other 2 you can take online. Well, first of all, I think we all learned during the pandemic that online education isn't equivalent to classroom education. Number one. Number 2 is go ahead and do an investigation and see what the pass rate is for online AP courses compared to classroom courses. And I'm speculating, but I can just assume. And by the way, don't go ahead and call your principal or assistant principal and complain about classes being canceled, because it's the district's issue. They're giving each campus a certain amount of sections, or if you will, teachers. Each teacher teaches 5 sections, and they do the best they can. And they have to make some tough decisions when their staffing is cut back. So don't go ahead and overwhelm the principal with your unhappiness, because this issue derives at the district office. Other examples, when we talk about that, ask your child, how many classrooms are jam-packed or have more than 38 kids, which is the contract max, which, by the way, isn't educationally sound. And in the past, very seldom will we have a class 38 to 1. Ask your children, how many classes are just packed? Also, when you go to back to school night, another place where you can cut is maintenance and operations. When you go back to school night, look how long the grass is. See if the plants are trimmed. When you go into classrooms, is the furniture in disarray or disrepair? Is there water spots on the ceiling? Did the classrooms and the restrooms seem clean to you? Okay, that's just common maintenance, but I'm also concerned about long-term maintenance. I have no doubt in my mind, I've talked to reliable sources, money is being shifted from long-time maintenance to fund these programs. Now, as taxpayers, me included, we spent millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to build Yorba High School and to modernize all of our other schools to where the schools are something we can be proud of. But you know as well as I do, just like a home, if you don't continually maintain them, they will go ahead and rapidly deteriorate. And the thing is, you won't see it for 10 years. And in 10 years, I'm guessing that those board members won't even be on the board, and that superintendent and deputy superintendent will no longer be in PYL. But we will be stuck with deteriorating schools and no money to do anything about it.
Thank you. This is the last question, and then we'll take some questions from everyone that is here with us today. So if you wanted to add some more questions, we will be pulling not all of them, but we're going to pull just a couple to answer. But this is the last one for the ones that we have prepared. In your professional opinion, what damage is being done to our district under our current leadership, and how can this potentially affect our community in the future if things don't change in this next election?
Well, first of all, let's just go ahead and take a look at the 18 months. We just destroyed our leadership in our district, and it really bothers me because I've lived in this district for 49 years, and we have a superintendent who knows very little about our school district. We have a board. Well, maybe they've lived in our school district a while, but they are relative neophytes. Sometimes you might even use the term carpetbagger. Don't dare use that term at a board meeting because you'll be escorted out by the police. But that is what's happening in our district on the short term. And we've lost all of these managers, but for a long time, for at least a half a century, and that's how long I've been in the community. This has been a destination school district. It's a place where new teachers want to come to. It's where managers want to come to and spend their entire career in. But and many of you people, is you have moved in this community because of the reputation of our schools. talk to educators throughout Orange County, and here's the terms that they describe PYL. They describe it as a joke. They describe it as toxic. People don't want to come here. And that concerns me. Beginning teachers, by the way, if you're not aware of it, because of school policy, Cal State Fullerton no longer sends student teachers to PYL. Unprecedented. They've never done that to any school district. And you have to keep in mind, I'm guessing 70% of the teachers in our school district are Cal State Fullerton graduates. To lose that number of teachers as a resource is so damaging. And here again, it's because of district policy. Teachers coming out of college, I can still relate to this so many decades later. You don't apply to one school district. You apply. I applied in the mid-70s. Teacher jobs were very difficult to come by. I applied to 300 high schools. And what you do, you get your job offers. And then you go ahead and you filter through your job offers. And you take the offer to the school district that is most desired. Well, I'm going to tell you, what we're getting are teachers that didn't get job offers from other school districts. Is we're getting the last people hired. And on top of that, our school district, they were so late in hiring this spring. They did much of their hiring during the summer. I know we used to do all of our hiring in March and April, but we certainly wanted it done before the summer. So that's how we're being damaged on the shore. And there's no doubt about it. This school district's been damaged. I talked to many people, superintendents, former superintendents. Even if we change the majority on the board, it's going to go ahead and take many, many years to go ahead and regain to something we once had. If we do not change the majority on this board, I'm very fearful, and I don't think this is hyperbole, I'm very fearful that the damage will be irreparable. And we're talking about your kids' education. But also on top of that, for any of you who your kids are about ready to leave the district or they already have left the district, once our reputation is destroyed, and we're well on the way for being destroyed, watch what happens to your property value. And I'll give you a perfect example. Irvine schools have a great reputation. Our reputation not too long ago was very comparable. People want to go to Irvine. Look at the property values in Irvine. And I will guarantee you, it's going to take 4, 5, or 6 years. But it's a lot easier to establish a reputation than it is to return a reputation once it's been damaged. And that's what I'm worried about in the long term. So hopefully, I've been talking to a lot of parent groups. There's a definite urgency. I've talked to a lot of administrators in the school district and said, if there's not a change on the board, they're gone. We lost 25 managers. That's nothing compared to what we're going to lose in the upcoming year or two if we do not have a radical change in our school district and our leadership. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this was informative. I'm speaking at a lot of parent groups for maybe a little more intimate environment. I welcome any of you to come and listen to me further. Now I think we're going to have some questions.
Yes. And
Okay.
if any of you wanted to know about those parent groups, you could reach out to me and I can give you the information. So you could also speak to them in person. But we have some questions that we're going to be asking. And these will be, or that we pulled from the audience. So let's go ahead and go over some of these. One of them, can you touch on class sizes at high school level and all levels and how it affects our school district?
Well, I think probably the ideal classroom size, it's not a financial reality, is probably something like 20 to 1. It's very important. Being a classroom teacher for 22 years, you want to emphasize engagement. You want to engage the kids as much as you can. If the class gets too small, it's not like the smaller the class, the better. At a certain point, it's sort of counterproductive because you're not getting enough engagement. If you ask me, if I could have 20 kids in a class, that would be perfect. But we just don't have the funds to do that. It's not done anywhere in the nation. Our contracted maxes throughout the school district, at least on the high school level, is 38 to 1. And in science labs, it's 36 to 1. But in reality, especially after the first couple of weeks of school and we're able to balance the classes, typically it's much more like 32 or 34. But what I'm worried about is we're going to, and by contract, I think the school district has, or the managers have like 3 weeks to balance the classes so they don't exceed maximum. What I'm worried about is we have all these classes with 38 to 1, and that doesn't give the teacher a whole lot of time for any type of individual instruction. And may I also add, take a look like at a language arts teacher, for an example. Such a important part of language arts is learning to write proficiently. And so you have to give writing assignments. If you have 38 kids times 5, okay, that's 190 kids. How many writing assignments can a teacher give and grade the papers, especially if they have a family of their own? They don't have an infinite amount of time outside of school day, and they don't have the time within the school day to grade those papers. So that is what I'm really worried about on class sizes. And there's no doubt in my mind that the district to fund these vanity projects are trimming staffing.
Thank you. Is it true suspensions have been eliminated?
Yes, it is true. In fact, my first hire as principal was a gentleman named Joey Davis. He was the assistant principal for 6 years. He went to Yorba Linda's assistant principal. He went up to the district office as a curriculum coordinator, and then he was principal at 8.5 years. And we were not only did I hire him, but we became very, very close. He was as competent as you could be, a very strong ethical and moral compass, a family man, religious and everything. The character assassination that he experienced in this district is nothing short of criminal, in my opinion. But why I'm going to say that is he told me at the start of the year, the dictate came from the district office that no kid could be suspended for any reason. And I'm talking about a kid can come up and they can cuss out a teacher. They could strike a teacher. And the attitude at the district office was that that's part of education. And you can just imagine if a principal and assistant principals don't have that tool in their toolbox, it just undermines discipline on campus. If your kid comes home and tells you stories about the lack of discipline on campus, oh, trust me, it's not because of the site administrators, it's because of district policy. And so I can't even imagine being a high school principal without having the power of suspension for unruly kids.
Okay, so next question. Board members say the money for USI is from a grant that could only be used for new facilities. Is that true?
No. In fact, I just had a long conversation with our former director of maintenance and operations. There was no grant for that money. It's money that's being shifted from other programs within the district. Okay.
In your opinion, can we have a board that makes teachers happy, but also parents, by leaving political and social ideologies completely out of our schools?
Oh, I so wish to talk about this earlier in my interview, and I'm glad someone gave that question. That's one of the biggest problems, is our school district has been politicized. We have been successful in eliminating any politics from our school district. I think most people would agree. I don't care if you're a liberal, a moderative, a conservative. I don't think if you're a Democrat, independent, or you're Republican. We all agree, or at least most of us agree, that we should have no politics in our school. And unfortunately, for the first time ever, we have a political board of education. Perfect example, one of the board members that's running for re-election. Look at her endorsements. She's got every elected official from the political party that she's in endorsing her. And I'm talking people that don't even know, they probably don't even know that that Imperial Highway runs through Yorba Linda. They don't know anything about our community. They don't know anything about our schools, yet they're endorsing her. In the past, we've had excellent board members. And you know what? You could not tell if they were Republican or Democrat or whatever. Once we get into the business where our district is run by politics and is not run by what is good for kids, that's where we're in trouble. And that's where we are right now. In the past, here again, is it possible? Sure, it's possible. That's our whole history. Why do you think when we have election for board members, there's no D or R alongside their name? That's what we've always intended, is there should be no politics in our schools. And that's what we need to get back to. But we're only going to get back to it if we go ahead and change the majority of our Board of Education.
And so what can we do as parents to improve the current situation?
I think I've made that real clear. You know, we have an election coming up in November, and we need to go ahead and bring in a whole new slate of people. I've talked to all of them. If I didn't believe in their values and their vision for the school district, I wouldn't have endorsed them. But we really, really need to go ahead and elect Misty Jansen and Tricia Quintero, and one of my former students, by the way, Marilyn Anderson. I think if we elect those three and we change the majority on the board, that's a big step. It's not the only step, but it's a big step into righting the ship and getting back on the path that this school district belongs, and one that's going to benefit your kid. It's going to benefit our community.
And this will be the last question. What do you think is the best way to reach long-time retired Yorba Linda residents to inform them of these critical issues?
Well, you know that's one of the problems. I really think that if every voter in Yorba Linda and Placentia, and don't lose sight, we are a unified school district, if everyone was informed of the state of affairs of our school district and what has happened over the last 18 months, is the election would be a landslide. Unfortunately, people are not informed, or they're ill-informed, or they get on social media and they believe everything that they read on social media, and much of it, especially coming from the supporters of the current board, is misinformation. It's manipulating you. I think you're going to see more and more parent meetings. I know I've been involved in a lot of them, and I continue to be involved in them. But this right here, what we're doing right here, is a perfect example. My understanding is that Yorba Linda Moms is 5,200 members. I don't know how many people are watching today, but I hope that many of the people that are watching today, if you think I've made valid points, is you share them with people and they share it with other people. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to just bring up one thing. So just how long has the people on our board who are making a lot of these decisions for our schools right now, how long have they been really involved in our schools on that level?
You know what? I don't think any of the current board members are I do know this. Carrie Buck and Marilyn Anderson are very, very, very involved in their communities, especially because they both are primarily in the Placentia area. Carrie also a little into Yorba Linda, and I have known Marilyn for 43 years, since she was a student of mine. I had her in world history, and I also taught her driver training. Carrie had at least one of her children go to Valencia, and I knew her then. So, I mean, they have a rich history, a rich record of community involvement that far surpasses the current members. You know, it should bother you, because it bothers me. when I have people that aren't heavily involved in our community, are people that have, relatively speaking, at least compared to me, have moved into the district. And the first thing they do is they come into our district and they say our schools are garbage. They're not worth anything. And and for some reason they feel that it is their right to go ahead and change our schools. I find that very, very, very offensive. But all I can do is speak to the two people that are on the minority. I know they've been heavily involved in the community as long as they've been in the community, and I would challenge anyone to go ahead and compare their involvement, any of those other three board members, to compare their involvement. In fact, I think this is a perfect venue. I would challenge Leandra Blades to have a one-on-one debate with me in the future on this same site.
All right, thank you. So anyways, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. If you have like more questions, we can try answering them afterwards as well. So just go ahead and leave your questions, and we will also be available to answer any questions you have when it comes to being able to see Jim Bell speak live in on a different venue in person. So anyways, I hope this was useful. This was just for you to hear from someone who has been involved in our district on this level, just to consider that when you are voting in November. Anyways, thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.